voting is totally corrupt. Get that through your head. It has to be. There's fraud. They found him in creeks. They found some with the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. All of the things that are happening with votes by mail, I'm not going to say which party does it, but thousands of votes are gathered and they come in and they're dumped in a location, and then all of a sudden you lose elections that you think you're going to win.
Donald Trump and his campaign are fighting mad about a Democratic PAC's use of Trump's own words to discourage Republicans from requesting mail-in ballots. And now Trump's campaign is threatening to sue. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Aronberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County, aka the Florida Law Man, here on the MeidasTouch Network. So you know that Trump realizes that his words in the past, blasting mail-in voting as a fraud, as unsafe, all that stuff, he knows it's coming back to haunt him because now he has an initiative called Swamp the Vote, where the Republicans are trying desperately to get their voters to vote by mail. Now it's okay. And the difference is they got swamped themselves by Democratic mail-in ballots last time, and they want to reverse that trend. And they don't want to rely on Election Day voting because Election Day voting is unreliable. The weather could be bad. There could be long lines discouraging people from voting. You could go to the wrong polling place. There are a lot of reasons why you don't want to depend on Election Day voting to win a race. And the Republicans know this. And even Trump knows it because he and his campaign now are freaking out that a Democratic PAC used Trump's words against him in an ad, a digital ad, that went to many Pennsylvania voters. Now, the ad does seem a bit deceptive, and you heard it yourself, that it was an ad that says that Trump is urging his voters not to use mail-in ballots. Well, now the opposite is true. So it's interesting because you can't deceive people to tell them not to vote or to tell them to vote on the wrong day. That's a violation of what's called the Ku Klux Klan Act. That's something that was passed under the Ulysses S. Grant administration after the Civil War, and it's been used in recent times, and I'll get to that. But generally, when you're using the act to go after voter fraud, it's not because the other side is using the candidate's own words. It's usually because they're using perhaps a deep fake or they're just using straight out intimidation. Here, this group used Donald Trump's own words, and he has a long history of attacking mail-in voting. I mean, here's another clip of him while he was president.
Mail-in ballots are a very dangerous thing. They're subject to massive fraud.
But now, because this is a close election and it looks like the Republicans are nervous, according to NBC News, in a letter that the Trump campaign sent to the group behind the ad, the Trump campaign argued the group was violating the Ku Klux Klan Act, legislation enacted to protect Americans from political intimidation. That law has also been cited in litigation against Trump and his allies over the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Pennsylvania Values PAC, that's the group behind this ad, spent between $10,000 and $15,000 to show more than 800,000 Pennsylvania voters the ad. According to Google data, the ad has since been removed from the platform, with Google citing a policy violation. According to Google data, it is the PAC's first Google ad in nearly 6 years. During the 2018 cycle, it ran a series of ads attacking Representative Lou Barletta, a Republican who ran for the Senate in 2018 against Democratic Senator Bob Casey. So this group is doing something that it does seem to be deceptive, and they've taken down the ad, and I suspect there may not be any further action because for this to be a criminal violation, I think that you probably have to do more than use Donald Trump's own words against him. I think the deception in the ad is where it says at the end, with on-screen text, "Stand strong with President Trump against mail-in voting." I think if the ad had just shown Donald Trump blasting mail-in voting and had a different call to action at the end, it could have been legit. But here, they're saying that Trump stands against mail-in voting when he has now reversed his position. And whenever you try to encourage people not to vote or not to vote in a certain way, that does raise the attention of regulators and prosecutors. I just think in this case, because they used Trump's own words against him and it was taken off the air, that there's unlikely to be a criminal prosecution that follows. But you compare it to other instances where the Ku Klux Klan Act was invoked, like after January 6th. The Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, according to Washington Post, also known as the Third Enforcement Act, made it a federal crime to use force, intimidation, or threat to infringe on people's rights to vote, hold office, testify in court, and serve on a jury. Targeting the Klan's tactics, the act also made it illegal to go in disguise upon the public highway or upon the premises of another to deprive anyone of equal protection of the law. The act also allowed victims to sue the perpetrators in federal court. That's what Trump is threatening to do, but the most recent violations of the act seem to be by Trump's campaign and his supporters. According to the Washington Post, the Klan Act was cited in a federal lawsuit aimed at those involved in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, filed by House Homeland Security Chairman Benny Thompson. The lawsuit accuses former President Donald Trump, his lawyer Rudolph W. Giuliani, and members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers of conspiring in violation of the Klan Act to prevent Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election. Remember State Senator Wendy Davis? That's the woman who filibustered the anti-abortion law in Texas. She sued law enforcement and Trump supporters over the Trump train that was harassing the Biden bus in Texas. According to the Texas Tribune, former State Senator Wendy Davis and others who were traveling on a campaign bus for President Joe Biden last fall, when it was surrounded and followed by former President Donald Trump supporters on a Texas highway, have filed multiple lawsuits over the events that transpired that day. The suits target people who were allegedly following and harassing the bus, as well as local law enforcement for not helping after assistance was requested, according to those on the bus. The lawsuit filed in federal court Thursday against at least 7 members of the so-called Trump train who followed the bus claims the group violated the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 and Texas law by organizing a politically motivated conspiracy to disrupt the campaign and intimidate its supporters. And that's not all. Remember a guy named Jacob Wohl, a guy in his early 20s. He was involved with right-wing election robocalls that tried to suppress the black vote before the 2020 election. He conspired with a guy named Jack Berkman, and they did these phony messages, and that also came under the Ku Klux Klan Act. The calls told people they could be arrested or forced to receive vaccinations based on information they submitted in votes by mail. These guys have a history of targeting Democrats and other public figures. They pled guilty to telecommunications fraud. As a result, they were ordered to spend 500 hours registering voters in low-income neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. They also were fined $2,500 and placed on probation along with 6 months in home confinement. Prosecutors said the pair were responsible for 3,500 calls to residents of Cleveland and East Cleveland. According to James Gutierrez, an assistant Cuyahoga County prosecutor, the robocalls warned voters that police, credit card companies, and the federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would use personal information obtained from mail-in ballots to find individuals with arrest warrants and credit card debt. Some calls told voters personal information would be used to carry out forced vaccinations. Absolutely disgusting. That's what you call a violation of federal law, but even that resulted in a relatively light sentence. So that's where we are in this campaign. Donald Trump is very concerned about mail-in voting this time, and now he's switched his position. But of course, when you pledge loyalty to one man, it doesn't matter if that one man is inconsistent. You just follow what that one man says. Ask the Republican Party and their platform, which in the last election had no platform. They just said, we follow whatever Donald Trump wants. So that is the state of the election and the state of the Republican Party. If you like this video, please like it and share with a friend. Leave a comment below. I'm Dave Aronberg, aka the Florida Lawman, here on the MeidasTouch Network, and I'll see you next time.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.